In this video, I'm going to finish our discussion of passive participles. So remember that participles are adjectives, which means that participles match the antecedent in case, gender, and number. So we saw gender and number in the previous videos. That's how we got examples like this. That if our antecedent is amicus, masculine singular, then our participle needs to be amicus, masculine singular as well. And we also said we could have plural. We could change the gender and we could change the number. So if we had the girls, puelai, that's feminine plural, then we would need a feminine plural participle to describe it. Today we're going to add case. Okay, now we're going to change the case. We only had nominative before, but you can use a participle to describe any word in a sentence, regardless of what case it is. So let's look at how those participles are then made. And remember that passive participles act like 2-1-2 adjectives. So this is going to look exactly like if we had the adjective magnus, or iratus, or litus, or bonus. We can have all of the different cases, and we're going to use first and second declension endings. So if we want a masculine nominative singular participle, it would be invitatus. If we want a genitive, it would be invitati. Dative invitato, accusative invitatum, ablative invitato. And those endings, again, are coming from second declension because it's like a 2-1-2. So you think of your endings. Us, I, o, o. And this would go on to the plural. Us, I, o, o. I, orum, is, os, is. So you could have invitatorum or invitatis. Same thing over here. We've got our first declension feminine endings. A, I, a. And it could go on to the plural. I, aurum, is, as, is. And we have neuter second declension. I, o, and it would go on to the plural. A, aurum, is, a, is. So these are all the different forms of a passive participle you could have, so that they can modify any gender in any case, whether it's singular or plural. I've only listed the singular here, but there are also plural forms. So remember that these are like adjectives, which we've seen before, where they match the case, gender, and number, but not the declension. So let's see some examples. Here we have ego amicum agrumione invitatum salutavi. Okay, so here's our participle, and notice now it's got an accusative ending on it, invitatum. It's got an accusative ending on it because the thing it's describing is accusative. Okay? Masculine accusative singular, masculine accusative singular. And these two happen to look alike because this is a second declension noun, but that doesn't have to be the case. We could put a third declension noun there and say ego patrem agrumione invitatum salutavi. So patrem is our antecedent. It's masculine accusative singular. So we use that same masculine accusative singular ending on our participle to describe the father. We can't just invent a form invitatem to match the ending of this. It's only going to use those first and second declension endings. So masculine accusative singular, masculine accusative singular. And this applies to all the cases, and singular or plural. So here we have another third declension noun. Servi senatoribus agrumione invitatis cibum dederunt. Okay, so here's senatoribus. It's third declension, masculine dative plural, and the participle form is masculine dative plural, but it's using that is from second declension to describe that. So they don't have to match declension, but they do have to be the same case, gender, number. Masculine accusative singular, masculine dative plural. Okay, just like 2-1-2 adjectives that we've seen. As far as translating these, Again, it's no different than when we looked at them just in the singular and then when we added plural, like the simpler forms of it, it's still translated verbed or having been verbed. It's just describing a different word. So here we have ego amicum agrumione invitatum salutavi. So I greeted the friend invited by grumio. Okay, notice that the translation of the participle didn't change at all. I greeted the friend invited by grumio, or having been invited by grumio. The participle moved because it's modifying now the accusative, but the translation itself is the same. Same thing down here. If we're going to describe an ablative, we've got the preposition cum, so femina is our ablative, being described or being modified by this ablative participle. Ego cum femina a grumione invitata adveni. I arrived with the woman invited by grumio. Poor grumio. But notice that invitata did not change translations. Okay, invited or having been invited. I arrived with the woman having been invited by grumio. The participle itself hasn't changed in translation. Now these can be a little trickier to translate, sort of like when we saw relative clauses. Depending on what word is being modified, it might be helpful to translate the main clause first and then add the participial phrase after the antecedent. So if we look at this sentence, here's our main clause. We took out that participial phrase. And just look at this part here. Murus urbis erat magnus. The wall of the city was large. Okay, so that's our main clause. Now we have this participial phrase that is describing the city. So go back to our translation and add the participle that describes the city. So the wall of the city built by Caesar was large. The wall of the city built by Caesar was large. And here's an example where we're going to be modifying an accusative, okay? So here's our main clause, and here's our participial phrase. The participle emptum is modifying donum, okay, the accusative word. But when you're translating, it might be helpful to just look at the main clause. I gave a gift to the woman, okay? And then take this participial phrase and stick it after the word gift in the translation. I gave a gift bought by grumio to the woman. Okay? I gave a gift bought by grumio to the woman. So sometimes you have to insert that participial phrase in the middle of a sentence. And translating your main clause first and then adding the participial phrase after the antecedent can help you do that correctly.